You're not gonna wait for the director's cut of Joker 2?
Yeah, probably not.
Is the Snyder Cut underrated or overrated? Here's my 2 cents on this real quick. Everyone lost their minds when the Snyder Cut came out, okay? I thought a lot of that was very unwarranted, honestly. It was definitely an improvement. Did it make the movie go from being a 5 to a 8? No, not in my mind. And also on top of that, you're looking at a 4+ hour film that is just totally not accessible to general audiences. Who's going to sit down and watch that for 4 hours other than us, right? Other than this nerd bubble that we have. In my mind, I think that it's definitely overrated because a lot of crazy people on the internet put this in their top 5 superhero movies of all time. I think they're crazy.
I think it's both. It's weird because the internet's such a polarizing place. I don't think anything with Zack Snyder now is about Zack Snyder. I think it's this crazy internet divide where, I mean, you can't talk about James Gunn's, like, you can't just say, hey, I'm concerned about the suit without being like Snyder cultist, in the comments. It's crazy. It's way better than what came before. I actually like the Snyder Cut. I think that I like what you said. Like, I think if we're really into this stuff, we will watch things that other people might not watch. Like, I love Blade Runner, the newest Blade Runner. I get a lot of people didn't want to sit through it, but I loved it because I love Blade Runner. There are people that want to hate on it. Not that that's what you're saying, but I think there are people that wanted it to be bad, and it's definitely better than what came before. I mean, I think the Justice League was atrocious.
I would only disagree slightly by saying I think it's substantially
I think
it's a completely different movie.
When we went to see the Justice League, I was disappointed. I came out and be like, what was that? Just such a meh film. I think just so many things that Warner Brothers did were just the wrong choice.
I think they're too reactionary. For the beginning of Marvel, those beginning movies weren't amazing. They're decent films. They didn't make crazy amounts of money, but Disney was in the idea of they were willing to continue with all of the films because they had a plan. They clearly saw where they were going to get to Endgame. They weren't willing to just change trajectory or make different decisions because it didn't make $1 billion. Warner Brothers is completely different in the idea that if it doesn't make the amount of money they personally think it should or gain the amount of attention it should, they automatically change directions and go in different ways because the Justice League, it's a completely different tone than what they started out with the beginning films. So people weren't happy with where it went. And then you have polarizing fan bases because people are confused about what's going on because it's not the same as what you obviously were clearly planning to go with for that world.
And again, as someone who likes the Snyder Cut, my biggest complaint is the same thing with the Justice League. I'm a big Henry Cavill fan. I really love him as Superman, and there's just not enough of him in it.
Right.
And I understand it's a really long film. Some people aren't going to be willing to dedicate that amount of time to it.
Yeah, I think that if he could have condensed that at least to a 3-hour film, it would have been a lot more accessible. I actually haven't seen that since the day that it came out on HBO Max, which was 3-4 years ago. I would love to go back and see it. It definitely changed so many things about the film, and it definitely improved it a lot. But once again, I'm not gonna be putting that in my top 5 personally.
Yeah.
I think it's sitting somewhere for me around a 7. It's still a solid film, but is it as good as Avengers? No, it's not as good as Infinity War to me. But once again, everyone's got different opinions about these films, and film is subjective. So everyone looks at it a little differently.
I'd agree that it's definitely an improvement from what we first got. It was a nice way to improve the content and not leave the experience with you scratching your head and say, what the freak did I just watch? Underrated, overrated? For me, I was excited to see it. I've seen it once in its entirety right when it came out on HBO Max. After that, I've watched it a couple more times, but more just in the background and just to see it playing and say, oh yeah, this is what could have done. It's nice that he did it. I really like that we got a better story, a better outcome of what each character could have been. It still leaves so many questions in my mind. I'm going to say it's underrated because of what it could have been, but it's not part of the continuity anymore. So it's oh, one and done, move on. That's the part that was disappointing to me. Compared to the first one, we're miles away from how that story left me after watching it the first time.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I saw Justice League, but I never watched the Snyder Cut. But I will say this. for what it is, obviously there's been the conversations about it with pretty much what y'all have said. Some people are like lifers about it. Almost did a really inappropriate gesture, but they're like, but sorry about that. But it's everything to them, or there's people who just don't care. And I think that one thing that is like looking on the bright side, most people who get let down by superhero movies don't get that much extra content and that much effort put into the extra content, if that makes sense. There's one day I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch that. I'm going to be honest, the DCU has never moved me the same way that I once was about Marvel. It's not like my all day, everyday thing is it comic book movies, but I loved those movies. They were in my main thing to pay attention to. I've never been super absorbed with the DCU. I've watched a lot of the movies, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'd never have had high expectations ever since this whole train got rolling on the DCU as far as that goes. But I will say something about the Snyder Cut existing alone is an anomaly. Like, that's not common, and that's really cool that exists for people, because I do think that it's crazy that people would actually get to the point where they're like so argumentative about it, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy because I want to be like, hey guys, let's just take the best of what we can here, and here's your feedback. We want more of this, this, and this. Or
DC fans are brutal, man. That's just not how they are.
Yeah,
that's not how they're built.
That's so true.
You're not gonna wait for the director's cut of Joker 2.
Yeah, probably not.
I think that the Snyder Cut was a weird point in the fandom where you had a lot of people masquerading as fans. Like, in my opinion, even the superhero films or just films in general, I don't care for. I would never want a fan not to get a director's cut or whatever, with like one exception. There's one exception where I'm like, I don't think the director earned it. But by and large, if someone enjoys it, I'm like, cool, like we all grew up reading, Elseworlds. Like, I don't see this big problem if there's like an aside. And I think that when you have enough people come together to get a studio to course correct or to change it, we should all kind of celebrate that as fans. Kind of like when they changed Sonic, we're like, hey, they changed it. Like, that's good. I think it's very weird the number of people that have sided almost with the studios, like people vocalizing what they want, saying they would spend money on it. Like, that's a problem. I think it's a very strange. You would just think in like a focus group, you'd be like, oh, thanks for your feedback. Thank you for your money. Let's move forward. I think it's weird to villainize people saying this is what I want to spend my money on. Like, that seems like a win-win.
As someone who is semi-obsessed with like in the politics world and stuff like that, I think something I've learned that I've been able to use in my personal life also with other things like this, reward good behavior. Whenever somebody's actually doing what we want them to do, it needs to be like, we need to say that, like, especially we're at the behest of whatever these people are that are making our movies or, so forth. When they do something that we really appreciate, it's like, hey, all this other stuff you've done so far might be dog water, but this right here is a good direction, which, like you said, John, I know nobody's ever going to be on the same side, even when they are, everybody sees it from 500 foot up as opposed to 30,000 foot up. If everybody would come together like, hey, look, let's hone in. This is the kind of content we want. I mean, you didn't get that from Marvel. You get all this cool stuff from Disney. That was crazy. That was so much more movie, I guess, to say, when it came out, everybody was all about like, man, it's a huge investment to watch it. But if this is your thing, this is your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the coolest thing in the world. That's getting your favorite rock band back in the day, before people put out music the way they put it out now, putting out another album 2 weeks later after they just put out one. That's like, oh my gosh, like, because you value those 12 songs more than anything in the world. And for you to get a whole nother one, which I guess obviously it wasn't entirely like that, but in the same breath, getting all that extra more to absorb. Like, we got 9 Star Wars main movies or whatever, right? And like, it's been around for forever. I know that Rogue One and
6,
but it's like, when it comes down to it, it's like you want to have a million of them, but you also know that if you get too much, like I was saying about music comes out so much now that it's like, I really don't care as much as I would have if I could have just got it in the increments that I did. Also, henceforth, why people get so mad. It's like, we only got 9 of these, man. And you said, we don't even have 9. We just have 6. Like, it matters so much, especially people who have been invested since before I was born in some of these things.
We got a comment here from Nerd Champs. Like, if we got And Justice for All, but with bass. Anybody know what he's talking about there?
No clue.
Maybe it's with Lance Bass.
Maybe Lance Bass. I think he likes Lance Bass more better than Taylor Swift.
Hey, man, shout out to Mississippi, dude. Lance Bass from Mississippi.
For Dooley, what's the one exception that you said that you wouldn't do a director's cut?
So we actually had a big debate with some of our friends about the Ayer cut. Suicide Squad was the tipping point for the DCEU. I know it made money, but I think it was a mistake. Not focusing on the core superheroes. I think that's what just messed things up. I just don't think there's enough there to justify it. And then but that's just me personally. Like,
well, and also just David Ayer as a director, I don't think there magically could be.
Yeah, the fact that he didn't fight for his film, I think that's a huge red flag. I know people say they've read scripts where it's better, but at the end of the day, he signed off on it. It's not like with Snyder where he had to leave, or like a Ridley Scott when he does his Blade Runner things where it's like, there's going to be differences. Maybe he's earned that legacy. With David Ayer, I'm like, I don't know if he's on that level as a director. He signed off. He said that he was happy with what the studio did until he got support from his, I guess, fans saying they didn't like it. He goes, actually, I had another thing in mind. So I just kind of like the artistic integrity of it. I was just not impressed. But
he might be trying to jump on that bandwagon because there was more footage of Jared Leto's Joker. But, it is what it is. Nerdchamp said they famously turned the bass all the way down in the mix. Metallica.
Yeah. When they said Metallica, that's when I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about now.
Right.